Hey guys, YouTuber Nerd here. Alright, and now here I am continuing on looking at the MonsterVerse movies. And now here I am with a review for Kong Skull Island. Yeah, so, yeah. As I told you guys in my last review when I reviewed Godzilla, I have never have really been like that crazy for Godzilla, so I didn't really see that film in the theater here and stuff, yeah. But, yeah, when I heard about this film coming out, I was looking forward to it. I mean, I have like the King Kong more than Godzilla over the years. I mean, just like a few years ago, I did review the original King Kong movie, and I did say that like it was just a classic and stuff. And yeah, and King Kong, I mean, like Godzilla, he is been like just like such a legendary movie character and such. And so yeah, So I was like curious to see this film when it was being advertised, and this was a film that I actually did see in the theater. So yeah, and overall, I said before how like I wasn't really like that impressed with Godzilla. Like it just like really was not what people are really looking for when they are like wanting to see a Godzilla movie because it just like had so much of a lack of Godzilla himself, and yeah, we just had to watch like all these uninteresting human characters just talking throughout most of it. Yeah, yeah. But with this film, like this really like was a much more interesting film than Godzilla was because yeah, with this film, I think that like the studio really did learn their lesson from like what they did with the Godzilla movie. I get the feeling that probably a lot of people were probably like complaining about the lack of Godzilla and just like how the story really wasn't interesting with it. Yeah, because in this film, like we do see like a lot more of Kong in the film than we did with Godzilla in his film. Yeah, yeah, unlike Godzilla, where like we barely even see him at all until like the last 30, 40 minutes into the movie. Here in this film, like a Kong actually like does appear throughout the film frequently, and he's even in the opening scene of the movie. So yeah, so I think the studio really did learn their lesson from Godzilla and actually decided to show the monster throughout uh, throughout the film and not just like have it just like be built up with all the anticipation for it. Yeah. And so yeah, and they really did do a much better job of like portraying King Kong in this film than they did with Godzilla in his film stuff. Yeah, yeah. So I said before how like just like after like the original film, it just seemed like King Kong was pretty much like just turned into crap in film and media for like all those years because yeah, I've talked about before how like the Japanese King Kong versus Godzilla movie wasn't very good. That 1970s King Kong movie that was awful, and that Mighty Kong animated movie from like 1998 that was awful too. But then yeah, in the turn of the century, like it seems that like King Kong has really been redeemed in film because yeah, there was a Peter Jackson's King Kong remake in 2005, which was a really good movie. And yeah, and this one is also pretty good too. Overall, I would say that this film really is not as good as like the original and the 2005 King Kong movies, but I mean it is still a pretty good film. Yeah. I mean, I don't really think it really does make sense to really compare this movie to those two movies because this film really does just have a totally different story than like the original film and the 2005 film does. Yeah, the 2005 film really does just like have the exact same story that the original film does with like Carl Denham was wanting to shoot a film at Skull Island, and then he eventually captures Kong and brings him back to New York. Yeah, with this film, it's a much different story. In this film, there's no a film director or anything like that. What this film really is about is that Skull Island has just like recently been discovered, and so um the U.S. government organization then just recruits a U.S. Army unit and sends them out to Skull Island and stuff. yeah, the like the government really just sends out the U.S. Army to just like out to Skull Island to try to search for some of the uh, uh, primeval creatures out there and stuff. Yeah, yeah, and eventually, like Kong is discovered over in the on the island, and then like the army initially the army's plan is really to just like try to take down Kong, but then eventually it's explained how Kong is really the protector of the island from all the primeval predators, and if they were to actually like kill King Kong on like just yeah the entire um island would be vulnerable to just all these other creatures destroying the rest of the island and stuff. And yeah, and so yeah, so really in this film, it's like I said, this is a much different story than like the original King Kong film and the 2005 film. So yeah, so it really doesn't make sense to really compare this film to those ones since it is like just a totally different story. So there won't be really any comparisons between like the those two King Kong films to this one. Yeah, but overall, I did like it. Like I said, just we do see like King Kong appear like frequently in the film, and when he's on screen, like when we do see him, he's always just like really great. Right? Like we just like see him in a whole bunch of action. He like just takes down like the helicopter, like a bunch of helicopters. He fights off like various like other creatures on the island, and then yeah, and then in the end, it is like shown how like King Kong is not really just like this like uncontrollable monster that will really just like wreck and destroy everything in his path. Uh, it is like shown like towards like the last third of the movie that Kong really does have like a real peaceful nature to him, and he's not just like some monster that'll just like go crazy at anything that he sees. So yeah, so it does show that like a King Kong does have like a is like more like of a gentle giant that will only fight to defend himself and the island. So yeah, so it is interesting to really see this kind of story, well, a King Kong story done in this way because yeah, in the other films, like I said, like well, not like I said, but yeah, in the other films there is really just like stuff where like King Kong really just seems like just a wild monster, but yeah, Anne really does get him calm and stuff. So yeah, he does like have like a soft spot for him, but other than that, he just seems like just like hell bent on just really like destroying everything in his path and stuff. Yeah, but but in this film, yeah, it is done like in a different style to really show that there's more to him than just, just like destroying everything and stuff. So yeah, yeah. So overall, like it does have like a relatively good story to the film. Yeah, and it really does do a good job of portraying Kong in sort of a different style than we usually see him. Yeah, yeah. Like I said before in the when I reviewed the original King Kong, well, not really like when the original King Kong, but I did a video like like talking about like how I really don't know like if like this kind of King Kong story and like just like all those other movies like the Godzilla versus King Kong movie and like all those other movies that King Kong has been in, if they are like really like set in the same world as like the original King Kong story with like the story that the original film and the 2005 film have, like I'm not really sure if like this is still like in the same universe as like the story that those films tell and stuff because yeah yeah it is really like just like really like uncertain like if it is all like taking place in the same universe or if this is just like set like if this is really just like a totally different King Kong well a different total world of King Kong and the events of like the or of the other films didn't even happen. So yeah, so it is something that really is like never really officially established whether or not it is like in the same world or not. Yeah, but regardless, yeah, this still overall it was a I did overall like this film. It was pretty good, and yeah, like I said, I just really do like the different interpretation of King Kong. Yeah. So overall, I think I would probably give this film around like a 3.25 stars out of 4. It is definitely a better film than Godzilla. Yeah. So something that I do find kind of interesting about the film is it does have like quite a few actors from the Marvel films in this film. Like in this film, you have like Tom Hiddleston, Samuel L. Jackson, Brie Larson, and even John C. Riley is in the film. And of course, like John C. Riley was like in the first Guardians of the Galaxy film. So it is interesting that they really did like get like these multiple actors from the Marvel films to be in the film. Yeah, I do find that pretty interesting. Yeah, and the film also does have like cast members like John Goodman, uh, Toby Cabell, John Ortiz, Corey Hawkins, and stuff like that, and other people like that. Yeah, and overall, the performances I would say are solid enough. So yeah. Yeah, so yeah, a good cast, good performances, and yeah, much more screen time is given to Kong in this film than Godzilla got in his film. Yeah, so overall, just I really can't really find too much to really complain about with the film. I mean, it's not as good as like those other two King Kong films. It's not as good as the original or the 2005 film, but yeah, overall, well, it is pretty good, and it was just nice to really see like a King Kong film done in a different style than those two films did. So yeah, so really just yeah, so yeah, not really much else to say. So I guess I'll just talk a little bit about the plot of the film. Yeah, so yeah, as the film opens up in the year 1944, and it shows there are these like two opposing a World War II who pilots. It's uh, uh, going at it in a fight, and then as they like are like really engaged in a close combat, as it looked like one was about to uh kill the other one, then it showed like the fight then just like got interrupted by a huge like just a giant ape. Yeah, and then yeah, then it cut to 1973. Yeah, and then after like Skull Island was like recently discovered, the head of the U.S. government organization Monarch, Bill Randa, then wanted to like search for the creatures on Skull Island, and so then he then ended up recruiting a U.S. Army unit that was commanded by Lieutenant Colonel Preston Packard, who was played by Samuel L. Jackson. Yeah, yeah, and yeah, he also like recruited James Conrad, who was a former British Air Service captain, as well as a anti-war or a photographer, Mason Weaver. Or, yeah, they're James Conrad is played by Tom Hiddleston, and Mason Weaver is played by Brie Larson. Yeah, and so then yeah, and then yeah, they were all then recruited, and then they then like then were all then like shipped out to Skull Island. Yeah, yeah, and also like this film really also does seem to be like more focused than the 2005 film was because yeah, as I said before, like the 2005 film, like it just like a lot of the first hour of the film was really just like spent on the ship, just like with all the people on board just like talking with each other and stuff, and yeah, it just really like went on too long. Like it was really like dragging on. Here, like it's really it does have like it really does like a is much quicker to the points and stuff. Like it does like build up a lot of the action stuff, but there's it doesn't really get to the point where it becomes tedious. So yeah, so the film is like a more on track than the 2005 film was. Yeah, and then yeah, then eventually once they arrived on Skull Island, then and as some seismic explosives were dropped on the island that were developed by the seismologist Houston Brooks in order to map out the island to prove the hollow Earth theory from Brooks. Then And eventually, like as like there were just like as the unit was just like searching the island island in helicopters, then eventually the giant ape then ended up like attacking the helicopters and just really just destroying a whole bunch of them. Yeah. But then yeah, then after like the helicopters were destroyed, right, all the survivors then were just like scattered all across the island. But then yeah, they then like formed into two groups with like Conrad and Weaver like forming one group with some of the survivors, and then yeah, Randa then like gathering another group of survivors. Yeah, yeah, and then yeah, then as like they were trying to search for another transport helicopter that was piloted by Major Jack Chapman, and they wanted to like use the weapons that were aboard that helicopter to kill the ape. Yeah, but then eventually Conrad and Weaver's group then came across the natives of the island, but then they also came across like one of those a World War II fighter pilots from the opening of the film, who was Hank Marlowe. Yeah, and then yeah, then he was just like explaining to the group that the giant ape Kong was just protecting the island from predators, predators, which also included like these subterranean reptilian creatures that were like dubbed as skull crawlers that killed like Kong's entire species. Then he was the last of his kind. So yeah, so it still does have that angle where like Kong is like the last of his kind, and yeah, yeah, but yeah, the natives on the island believe that like if at any time Kong dies, a skull crawl like a huge skull crawler would awaken and just ravage the island. Yeah, yeah. So then yeah, and then he also talked about how he and the opposing pilot that he fought with, Gunpei Ikari. Yeah, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. Yeah, they actually did become friends while they were on the island, but yeah, Ikari ended up being killed by a skull crawler sometime before that. Before this, yeah, yeah, and then uh, Conrad and Weaver's group then like just agreed to like try to help Marlowe finish a boat that was made from parts of like the two downed planes that Marlowe and Ikari crashed in, yeah, and then yeah, then they eventually ended up uh, completing the boat, and then as they were like riding down the river, they eventually ended up being able to communicate with Packer's group, yeah, yeah, but then yeah, yeah, but then like at one point like Chapman ended up like being like just attacked and devoured by a skull crawler, and so due to that they decided to, well, Packard then was just insistent on trying to search for Chapman, and yeah, and then yeah, but then as a Marlowe was then like leading the group through like just a whole scene of wreckage of like dinosaurs and other of Kong's kind. And eventually, the Skullcrawler that ended up killing Chapman ended up attacking the group, and Randa ended up being killed in the scene as well. But then, and yeah, eventually, a Weaver was able to like trigger a flammable gas that ended up just exploding, and the Skullcrawler ended up being killed due to it. Yeah. But then, after learning that Chapman died, then Ida Packard then decided that he wanted to kill Kong to avenge the death of Chapman and the other men that Kong had killed. But yeah, but Marlowe, Brooks, as well as Conrad and Weaver were against Packard's plan to kill Kong, and they were trying to explain to him that he is actually protecting the island, and if he actually does kill Kong, the other skull crawlers will like just ravage the island. But Packard just was not listening to any of it, and he was just saying that they would kill the skull crawlers as well. But he wanted Kong dead, and yeah, and nobody could really talk Packard out of it. And so then they decided to part ways with uh with Conrad, Weaver, and Marlowe, then just like taking their group off, leaving a Packard and his men to do what they feel they need to do. Yeah. So then yeah, yeah. So then yeah, then uh, as Conrad, Weaver, and Marlowe then set off to uh head back to the boat. Packard and his men then retrieved the weapons from Chapman's chopper and tried to lay out a trap for Kong at a nearby lake. Yeah, yeah. But then eventually, then at one point, Conrad and Weaver then saw Kong face to face that night, and then yeah, then they saw that he wasn't just like some uncontrollable monster. That he did have like a peaceful nature to him, and so due to that, then they were bound to really stop Packard and his men from capturing Kong and killing him. And, yeah, and then yeah, but then yeah, then Packard and his men then ended up luring Kong into their trap by using like some more seismic charges, and then yeah, they then were yeah, and then yeah, Kong was just like just in a wave of like explosions, and then yeah, then he was eventually incapacitated in with ignited napalm. Yeah, and then eventually Kong just collapsed unconscious. Yeah, but then yeah, Conrad, Weaver, and Marlowe then arrived and then stepped in and then just were continuing to just try to get Packard to call off the attack and stop. Uh, but then yeah, then they were able to get through to some of Packard's other men, and they also well like tried to stop him as well. And hell, but yeah, then yeah, no, everybody except Packard himself resolved off. Yeah, and then yeah, everybody then retreated. He did, and yeah, then as they did, like a huge skull crawler then emerged from that lake, and then yeah, then Kong then ended up awakening, and then he saw Packard, and Packard still was like about to set off the explosion to kill Kong. But Kong crushed him, and it was funny. Like they, of course, in the film, they still like used Samuel L. Jackson's trademark of saying "motherfucker" in the movies. Yeah, and it was funny the way they did it in this film because as he was about to detonate the explosion, like he just looked at Kong and said, "Die, motherfucker!" And Kong just crushed him like that as he was saying it. So it was a funny way that they chose to include his motherfucker saying in the film like that. Yeah. Yeah. And then yeah, then Kong and the Skullcrawler then and had a face off with each other. And yeah, they had like this big fight, and then yeah, and then you just had like Conrad, Weaver, and the others just looking on, trying to help Kong against the Skullcrawler. Yeah, but then yeah, then like the Skullcrawler was like starting to overpower Kong, but yeah, Kong eventually then ended up victorious with the help from Conrad, Weaver, and the others. Yeah, and then yeah, then at one point like a Kong accidentally like threw the Skullcrawler into the place that Weaver was standing, and it ended up knocking her off, and she ended up falling into the lake. Yeah, and then it just like seemed that she was like unconscious. It just didn't look like she was gonna drown, but then it showed like Kong like rescuing Weaver. Weaver, and then just placing her on the shore, and yeah, then it just showed him walking off. Yeah, but he did end up like looking back at Conrad and Weaver as he walked off. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, it is interesting how like in this film, like they really don't give Kong like a romantic connection with Weaver in the film like they do with Anne in the original film and the 2005 film. They decided that there's no romantic connection, but he just saves her instead, like showing that like he still does like have he does care about like people that really are no threat. Yeah, yeah, and then then eventually the survivors were able to reach their rendezvous point, and they then just like left Skull Island, and it just showed like Kong looking on stoically, and then it just was like zooming in on Kong, and yeah, it just like had him roaring, and then it just like zoomed into his eye. Yeah, and then as the credits rolled, it then was like showing like a footage of Marlowe returning home and reuniting with his wife and meeting his son. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then like the credits just like rolled, and then but after the credits, then we had like the scene that really was like showing like this was like really leading up to the confrontation that we're waiting for. Yeah, show hold that Conrad and Weaver were detained and recruited by Monarch, and then yeah, then they were informed by uh, Brooks and San Lin, another Monarch worker, that Kong was not the only Monster King, and then they would just played some archive footage of cave paintings showing like Godzilla and some of the other creatures that he's fought before, and then it just like showed that, and then as it faded to black, then we just heard Godzilla's roar. So yeah, so this was really the film that really was really did show that uh, this is like in the same universe as Godzilla, and so that Godzilla does also exist in the world. And yeah, so this was really the film that really did like confirm that we were in for a future confrontation between Godzilla and King Kong. So yeah, so this is really the film that really did tease the Godzilla versus Kong movie. Like there wasn't nothing a thing like a hinting like a Kong Godzilla confrontation and Godzilla. So yeah, this was really the first film. Well, this was the film that really did like show that we would be there would be a future competition between the two of them. So yeah, so this is really what started to build it up. So yeah, all right. So yeah, and that's how it ended. Yeah. So, like I said, it is overall a pretty good movie. I mean, like I said, there is much more King Kong in this film than there was of Godzilla in his film. And yeah, there's just like a lot more action. The story's better, and yeah, it just is a lot more focused on focused in the story, and it's more interesting than Godzilla is. So overall, like I said, I give the film 3.25 stars out of 4. It's not as good as the original King Kong and the 2005 film, but yeah, for like a different story and just like a different interpretation of King Kong, it is a pretty good film. So yeah, yeah. So yeah, so if you haven't seen it, I would recommend it. Like I'm doing, I would recommend watching the MonsterVerse films in order. Like give Godzilla a watch before you do watch this. But yeah, give this film. Yeah, but yeah, I still would recommend this film either way. Okay, so yeah, so overall, it is a pretty good film. All right, so I guess that's all I can really say about it. All right, so yeah, so this does it for my review of Kong Skull Island. So I hope you guys did enjoy this review. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.